Now it's the charge to the graduates, and it's a great privilege for me to introduce to you Pat Richter, who will deliver that charge. Pat earned his bachelor's and law degrees from UW-Madison. Pat was UW-Madison's Director of Athletics from 1990 to 2004, and under his direction, the athletic department's $2.1 million debt was turned into a $6 million surplus. The department became compliant with Title IX legislation by implementing roster management principles and adding the sports of women's softball, women's hockey, and women's lightweight rowing. The department hosted the NCAA championship events in men's hockey, women's golf, and women's volleyball, and received NCAA certification twice. Numerous first-class facilities were built, including the Cole Center, the Fetzer Academic Learning Center, University Ridge Golf Course, Goodman's Softball Diamond, and the renovation of Camp Randall Stadium. As a student at UW-Madison, Pat earned academic All-American honors and was Wisconsin's Big Ten Medal of Honor winner for academic and athletic excellence in 1963. He's one of the university's most storied student athletes, having lettered 3 times, each in football, basketball, and baseball. He led the NCAA in receiving as a junior and set a Rose Bowl record with 11 catches in the 1963 game versus #1 ranked USC. Pat was a first-round draft pick of the Washington Redskins and played professionally there from 63 to 70, and then, of course, has returned and has greatly enhanced this community in so many different ways. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you, once again, Pat Richter.
Thank you, David. As is usually the case with most of the chancellors, I have to change this a little bit. We always run into that problem, David. Believe me, I'd much rather be here at home having the baskets down. It's much more comfortable, but certainly it is a real pleasure to be here. I was flattered when David contacted me about the chance to spend a couple minutes with you, and because it's been 50 years since I was more or less sitting where you are. And I was wondering now, how in the world did my name pop up on the radar screen for this class? And I figured it had to be a suggestion, maybe your parents and probably more likely your grandparents. It really is a great pleasure, and it's a great honor to be asked to join you today. And I must admit, this is the first time I've been in this robe, and I was tempted to put on a hat like David, but I just couldn't quite bring myself to do that. But it's very exciting. There's so much I want to say to you, but I'm going to concentrate on 3 things. First, I want to talk about perseverance and the will to win. Next, I want to talk about professionalism. And finally, I want to talk about learning from adversity. As I stand before you today in December of 2012, I'm reminded that 50 years ago to the day, 50 years ago, we were practicing football and getting ready to go to Pasadena, California to play in the 1963 Rose Bowl. Likewise, today, our Badger football team is preparing to head out to California for the 2013 Rose Bowl and a very important game against Stanford. 50 years ago, we were facing #1 USC. We were ranked #2, so most expected the game to be very close. But for a good part of the game, that wasn't the case. We struggled mightily in the first 3 quarters and trailed 42-14 early in the 4th quarter. I'll tell you how discouraging it was. I had an aunt and uncle at the game, and they left after the 3rd quarter. Our team was embarrassed at how poorly we had played and that we had disappointed so many Badger fans in the stands and all around the country. Understand, it was much more difficult to get to the West Coast back in the 60s. In addition, many loyal supporters did not travel to California because Wisconsin had just been to the Rose Bowl in 1960, and some fans decided they'd buy one of these newfangled things, this brand new TV set, and they'd wait to go to the Rose Bowl next in a couple years. Little did they know it would be 31 years before Wisconsin would get back to the next Rose Bowl. In fact, Wisconsin has been to Pasadena. As was mentioned, David has a great record there. It's as good as Barry Alvarez's record. In fact, when you mention it about the Rose Bowl, I'm thinking to myself, all 3 of us don't really have a real job anymore. We're all interims of something or other. So maybe it's plausible deniability, I guess you might say. But Wisconsin has been to the Rose Bowl so many times over the last 14 or 15 years, the fact is it now known as Camp Randall West. I can tell you this, being in the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all, should never, ever be taken for granted. The reason I bring up the 1963 game is that I now strongly believe it very much mirrors the real world and life in general, particularly in today's difficult, stressful environment. I believe the game can provide some valuable lessons that we might learn from, regardless of whether you have a foreseeable future that is crystal clear or one, on the other hand, that might be cloudy and uncertain. For me, I did not fully appreciate the significance and the implications of the game until years later. As I previously mentioned, we were down 42-14 in the fourth quarter and very disappointed with our showing in the game, but then we began to pick up the game, our play improved, performing now at a level that everyone had expected of us. In fact, the game got so exciting that same aunt and uncle turned around on the freeway and they came back to the game. Seemingly out of the game, being behind 28 points, we began to rally and put some points on the board, and before you knew it, the score was 42-37. And we had a last-second chance at blocking a punt and pulling out an incredible comeback victory. But it was not to be. We ran out of time and unfortunately lost the game. Interestingly, the comeback in the game is considered to be one of the most exciting sports events of all time. It had been pure entertainment. 6 years later, in 1969, while playing in the NFL for the Washington Redskins, I was fortunate to play under Coach Vince Lombardi, who tragically fell victim to colon cancer after that season. Lombardi was able to put it all in perspective. He was known to be a great motivator, but he had been misquoted as saying, "Winning isn't everything, it's the only thing." But what he really had said was, "Winning isn't everything, wanting to win is." There's a tremendous difference. What he said was exactly what had happened to us in the Rose Bowl. His words reinforced the notion that the will to win and the perseverance and persistence you need to come back from adversity was a vital part of one's character and makeup, especially for anyone playing professional football, but most importantly, it applies to all of us. During the short time Lombardi was with the Redskins, it was no wonder they were able to achieve greater success in his one and only season than they had in the previous 10 years. One thing is for sure, we all benefited from Lombardi's philosophy about professionalism. And now just kind of put yourself in the position of being in the room with Lombardi is there. He's talking about professionalism. He's not talking about winning and losing necessarily. He's not talking about the Redskins. He's not talking about players. He's not talking about the NFL. He's talking about professionalism. And the fact is that we all are prepared. We go out and confront a certain situation. And if, in fact, we all act accordingly in a professional manner, we'll be successful and we'll go on to great rewards and the enterprise will succeed. However, if among us there's someone that has had a careless attitude, doesn't prepare themselves, we now go out and we're not successful, the enterprise does not succeed, and those rewards are not passed out to anyone. What he was driving at was not so much the fact that it was an athletic contest, a game. Sure, you can lose the game, but what he was driving at was when we were through with this profession, where we were at the highest level, and now we're out in the real world, and we might be in police and fire, education, we might be an attorney, a doctor, construction, whatever it might be. When people come to you for advice and counsel, you can't afford to take that day off. So he was instilling in us an attitude, a way of life, and the fact is you can't take those days off later on because what will happen? You don't lose an athletic contest, you don't lose a game, you lose things that are much more important than that. You lose lives, financial stability, things that are much more important than an athletic contest. Professionalism is something you can't turn it off like a water faucet. You have to be at the top of your game all the time. Another reality is that we will not win or be successful in everything we attempt to accomplish. We will lose some of the time. It's guaranteed to happen. Whether it is in athletics, playing cards, or trying to close a deal in the business world, it happens all the time, usually when you're looking for a positive or successful outcome. I believe that one of Lombardi's most insightful yet little-known tenets was something he wrote on his desk pad when he was in his office shortly before he died. He wrote that the greatness of a loss is not so much what is determined by what is lost, but by what is left. What a simple yet profound statement that applies to just about everything we do that is worthwhile. Lombardi knew you couldn't win them all, yet the greatness or impact of any adversity in our lives is not that it has occurred because there isn't anything you can do to change that outcome. The greatness of the loss is more appropriately measured by what you have inside of you to reach down deep and thoroughly analyze where things might have gone wrong and what you might have done better. By doing so, the chance of succeeding in the future will improve, and you have minimized the greatness of that previous loss. The end result is that you'll be better equipped and prepared to stand up to future challenges. You are now entering a new and important phase in your life, one that will require you to draw upon all of the learning and resources you have at your disposal. You will be amazed at how equipped you are to meet the challenges ahead. You should have enormous confidence because you are armed with a top-notch education and diploma from a world-class institution, a solid formula for success. The University of Wisconsin's mission is to provide you with a quality education. In addition, it offered you a broad platform from which you are able to choose opportunities that enabled you to expand and explore your horizons. As you leave today, you can be supremely confident that you have had a total collegial experience with educational, social, athletic, and many other enriching opportunities that you will hopefully endeared you to Madison. You are the future, the lifeblood of this great educational enterprise. We need you. We want you to be engaged with your fellow alumni and be supportive of the mission of this fantastic institution, the University of Wisconsin. So in conclusion, remember the three things that this fellow told you today on your graduation day. First, you must never give up. You must persevere and have the will to win. Second, always be at the top of your game. Be the consummate professional. And finally, remember to learn from your losses. Learn from your mistakes. Let adversity lead you to your future successes. And one thing I want to make sure you understand. You must remember that once a Badger, always a Badger. Thank you and good luck.